I am Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. Just done it. Nike kneel with Colin Kaepernick by featuring him in their latest ad campaign. Tens of thousands rally to show they're not Nazis in the German town of Chemnitz. Adverts become more integral to YouTube. Will that put you off watching those cat videos? And what's in a name? A viral meme comes up with new monikers for famous types. On top of our news feed, Colin Kaepernick. Now, Nike have chosen the one-time NFL quarterback to be the face of a new advertising campaign, and that's created a huge debate online. Now, to some, Kaepernick is a controversial figure who's displayed contempt for his country. To others, he's a man who took a stand, or rather a knee, for a cause he believed in. Now, the fact Nike have stuck with him and further want to feature him in this way tells us something fascinating about the way sport, politics and marketing intersect in modern America. Now, Nike's stock opened 2% down, taking about $250 million off its value. Colin Kaepernick, the face of Nike's 30-year anniversary for its slogan, "Just Do It." Kaepernick was a star quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, but has since been unemployed after refusing to stand for the national anthem and taking a knee to protest the killing of black people by police officers in the United States. His protest was supported by many, but also drew a lot of criticism.
To say, get that bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Now Nike have picked a side.
We believe Colin is one of the most inspirational athletes of this generation who has leveraged the power of sport to help move the world forward.
And that's led some to destroy their Nike gear on social media. And of course, the Twitter debate has been raging since Nike made the announcement. The campaign calls on people to believe in something. Will Nike's belief in Kaepernick end up helping or hurting the brand? Some of the commentary has pointed out Nike's poor record of workers' rights and questions their motives behind this move. And where does Kaepernick's protest go from here, now that his political stance has been co-opted by a mega multinational? The new NFL season starts on the 6th of September. Let's take a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. Now, this is all that's left of the National Museum in Brazil. A huge fire destroyed much of the 200-year-old collection. The cause of the fire has still not been revealed, and there were protests outside the burnt-out husk. Now, people in Rio have begun blaming politicians for the damage. They say the people in power have had their priorities on big, flashy showpieces like the Olympics and the World Cup, and not on the culture and soul of the country. There was no sprinkler system in the building.
The National Museum had very important items. It attracted attention on an international level. There was a lot of research which will now come to an end, and history will be erased.
The man said to have brought suicide bombing to the Afghan conflict has apparently died. His death was announced by the Taliban via a telephone interview with the Associated Press. His name was Jalaluddin Haqqani, and he fought the Soviets with US support in the 80s. President Ronald Reagan called him a freedom fighter. He joined the Taliban in the 90s and later formed what is called the Haqqani Network, which is now classified as a terror organization. From one extremist to another, this guy, Steve Bannon, has been uninvited from the New Yorker Festival after a bunch of liberal speakers said they would not share a platform with him. Now, Bannon is credited or blamed, depending on your political position, with the rise of Trumpism, and his nationalistic rhetoric forms the basis of the alt-right. Now, this is the TV host Jimmy Fallon saying he will not go, as well as the comedian Patton Oswalt. The writer Malcolm Gladwell points out that he would have thought the point of a festival of ideas was to expose the audience to ideas. If you only invite your friends over, it's called a dinner party. Well, he was shouted down for that opinion by Rogue Twitter. The love of all mankind
should reflect some sign of these.
Happy Bay Day B, happy B-Day Bay, HBBK. It's Beyonce's birthday and she is a fan of the show, so we all send Queen Bee many happy returns.
Almost impossible to do, reciting the makings of you.
Now the hashtag Wir sind mehr has been used by Germans to show they're not neo-Nazis. Protests and demonstrations on both sides of the political spectrum have been held in an East German city for about a week after the death of a man apparently at the hands of refugees.
Dass man sich den Rechten entgegenstellen muss und dass wir eine offene Gesellschaft sein wollen und bunt und offen und dass wir es schaffen werden mit allen.
Scott Morrison has a record of hardline stances on immigration cultivated while a minister in previous Australian administrations. And that will most likely continue now he's in the top job, as Tamina explains.
Scott Morrison introduced Operation Sovereign Borders.
If you choose not to go home, then you will spend a very, very long time here.
Refugees who came by boat were either sent back to where they came from or transferred to detention camps. A policy turned into a devastating election slogan by Morrison's then boss, Prime Minister Tony Abbott.
Stop the boats.
He came under fire for refusing to release details of the military operations to turn back the boats. Then there were the conditions in the camps on Manus Island and Nauru, which was slammed by human rights groups. But Australia's harsh policies against immigrants isn't something new. The White Australia policy was introduced in 1901 and was designed to limit non-British migration to Australia. It was formally scrapped only in 1973. A moment which symbolised the harsh turn in modern Australian immigration policy came in 2001 with the Children Overboard affair. It was a massive political controversy where government officials accused asylum seekers of throwing children overboard in a ploy to win voters' sympathies. An inquiry later found that no children were thrown overboard and the government had known this before the election. Then there are right-wing politicians like Pauline Hanson, whose racist rhetoric has pushed public discourse in a more intolerant direction.
I'm quite happy to remove this because this is not what should belong in this parliament.
Australia has now had 5 prime ministers in just over 5 years, each making immigration one of their top priorities. So will immigration policy continue to get harsher under the leadership of Scott Morrison?
Well, Saudi Arabia apparently have audacious plans to further isolate Qatar. Now, they've done it diplomatically and politically for a year. Their latest reported idea will do so literally. Have a look at this. China has long invested in African nations, and a summit is being held in Beijing to talk about how that investment will continue into the future.
China is playing a very constructive role on the African continent in helping the African continent to develop, but not develop only as a country that wants to take resources, but as a partner.
Now, YouTube have a new plan to make more money. They will now make people watch 2 ads before the video they've selected to watch begins to roll. Question is, will users accept it?
How often do you press the skip button after seeing 5 seconds of an advertisement on YouTube? From this week, you might not have that choice. More non-skippable ads are going up on YouTube. They'll be up to 20 seconds long.
What's up, insiders? If you want to learn how you could potentially make more money from advertising revenue, watch this video.
YouTube's PR says it'll mean more money for creators, as advertisers pay more for this format. But critics say viewers will be turned off and click away altogether. YouTube says creators can monitor the changes and will have some control over which ads play on their videos. So is this a good move by YouTube? Or will you turn off?
Okay, around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Tuesday. Facebook has a definition of terrorism which has been called overly broad by the United Nations. The UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights wrote to Mark Zuckerberg to tell him that Facebook's current policy could result in groups being barred from the site that don't reach the UN-defined level of a terror group. Those groups, the UN said, may post legitimate critiques of governments but find themselves censored by those governments who want to stifle dissent. It's being reported that the boss of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, overruled subordinates to ban the loudmouth conspiracy theorist Alex Jones from the site. Twitter is denying the reports, which first appeared in the Wall Street Journal. And video games are too violent for the Olympic Games, so says the man who currently decides if new sports get in. Esports have been a huge success at the current Asian Games, but the head of the International Olympic Committee, 64-year-old Thomas Bach, said they promote violence. Now, Mr. Bach won an Olympic gold medal in fencing in 1976. Fencing is sword fighting, Mr. Bach. Isn't that violent? Uganda brought in a social media tax a couple of months back, in their president's words, to stop gossip. Now, a telecoms research company say the tax is not only regressive and damaging to free speech, it will also cost the Ugandan government money. The companies say the levy on use of Facebook, Twitter and WhatsApp will reduce their use and reduce the use of the internet overall. And as everyone knows, internet use is a driver for developing economies. And one of my favourite stories of the day is out of Kuwait. A fishmonger has been shut down after being caught sticking fake googly eyes onto his catch to make them look fresher. The scale of the crime has yet to be fully explained. And last up, the internet sometimes throws up genuine comedy genius, and sometimes it throws up stuff like this. Some people have taken the time to reimagine a celebrity's real name, so Cardi B is actually Cardigan Backyardigan. Lil Bow Wow is Bowwood Wowwood. 50 Cent is 50th Century. Ice Cube, Icelandic Cubicle. And Post Malone becomes Postpone My Student Loan. LOL Internet, LOL. Well, that's all for the NewsFeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints, and suggestions. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Follow, subscribe, and add. See you again tomorrow.